Thank you, Joe.
Joe, will you send the copy of the recording to me at the end of the meeting? Thank you.
Well done, Jenny.
Not getting any answer though, bless him.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if he's all right.
he might have fell asleep.
Yeah.
So that's 6 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Thetford Town Council Finance Committee meeting, Tuesday, 22nd of September. Welcome to the members of the public who are either watching along live or afterwards on YouTube. So good evening or good morning even to yourselves. We'll kick off with 305.20 on the agenda, which is declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest, please, to receive any additional interest not already registered.
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Super. So, as they say in the church, as they keep the peace, we'll move on to 306.20, which is the apologies for absence to receive.
Hello.
Would you like to mute yourself, Councillor Hollis, if for a moment?
Meeting. Oh, well, yeah, I'll press in. I couldn't see you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so apologies for absence. Do you have any that we can receive, Alan?
I haven't received anything. I did mention that Roy, I think you had received apologies from Councillor Roy Brand.
Yes, Councillor Brome has provided apologies to me, and I thank him for it, and I hope everything's going as well as it can do for him at this time.
Madam Chair, sorry, Denny's online.
Oh, how interesting. Right, bear with me.
Him and Chris are in, so I don't know where they are, but he's just phoned me to say that he is there.
Okay, they're not actually currently showing as in this meeting. I am mindful that there was a duplicate meeting invitation went out. So have they signed into the one that was set up by Alan York and not by? Oh, there's Dennis. Excellent. Welcome, Dennis. Thank you.
Sorry, Jane, I was in, but I seem to be in a limbo. It said I was in the meeting with Chris Harvey, but I've come out and come back in, so my apologies.
Yeah, it might be a slight technical issue because we had two meetings set up. It might be something that we need to look at for Chris as well. Joe, whilst you're sitting in the background, is that something that you could perhaps help resolve, please? Super, thank you very much, and sorry to trouble you for that. So the only other, so we've got Dennis with us, and we're trying to get hold of Chris Harvey. Okay, we will proceed, and hopefully Chris will be able to join us shortly.
Okay.
Okay, so if we move on to 307.20, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, to confirm as the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 18th of August 2020, which will be received by full council on the 29th of September, along with these minutes. You've all had those circulated to you previously. Just try and get on my download. This is ever so clever, this stuff at the moment. Okay. So I'll make the assumption that you have all read them. I'll go through them page by page, just calling out the page numbers. If there's any observations in terms of accuracy, could you please highlight to me? So page 1, page 2, page 3, and then we have a considerable number of appendices, which I won't bore yourselves with. any observations or on accuracy on those at all, please, anyone?
No, thank you.
Can we recommend those to full council then, please?
Approved.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Okay, if we move on in that case to 30820, sorry, lost my train of thought completely. Committee financial decisions to note, committee financial decisions, which has been previously circulated. It was only just recently, so I apologise for that, but Alan had some challenges in putting that information together. So thank you, Alan, for your time and efforts. So these are just really to note. It's quite exciting that we're getting on, despite the current circumstances, that we are getting on with a number of projects, and that's really, really pleasing. And some of those that are particularly at the heart of the people of Thetford. Any questions or queries on the committee financial decisions, please?
Hang on.
Whilst the members are just looking at that, welcome Chris Harvey. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about the challenges.
You're right. I was at the other meeting. I thought this would be a good number on my own here.
Yeah, we've all had a little bit of fun on that one. Councillor Hollis, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking at the respect of the sculpture trail. Council has approved the revised route
Yes.
and costed action. So does that mean, how are we getting the funding from that?
My understanding is part of that is being funded via the BFER.
Right.
That's a specific project, but there are parts of it that will need to be funded via Thetford Town Council, and there is some money in terms of that, and we'll receive a costed action plan from the Working Party at the October out meeting. So I'd encourage you all to actually look at the out committee minutes. There was some really good information came through from there as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, you're very welcome. If everybody's happy with that, can we move on?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Super, thank you. So we then move on to 30920, which is the contracts update. To note the schedule of contracts, and the document has followed, and you have it on your screen there. It has been circulated. Any questions or queries on this one, please?
Can I ask?
Please.
Carnegie Roof Repairs. Have we heard any more on that one?
If my memory serves me correctly, there are a number of options that we could pursue, and I don't believe the committee has actually discussed the way forward yet. So there was agreed spend for repairing, but there has been an assessment of the roof that needs consideration at the next out meeting.
Right, okay, thank you.
Are we happy to note that and move on to the next agenda item, people? Councillors, sorry.
Yes, thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, people leader.
I'm sorry, committee. I'm so sorry. In that case, we'll move on to agenda item 31020, which is the financial report for month 5. To receive and approve and recommend for approval the income and expenditure reports for month 5, please. Thank you, Alan. You're flying that screen sterlingly. Thank you so much. So whilst I invite the committee to pose any questions or queries or comments. Obviously, we are in, as the Chinese curse goes, interesting times. There are some challenges, but there are some opportunities, and it's quite as we've seen by the contracts and the projects. We are taking the opportunity to actually get some of the works done that perhaps haven't always had the chance to be done, and obviously the Guildhall is pressing on. Any questions or queries, please, committee?
Could I ask a question, please?
Please, Councillor Canham.
Personnel administration, why has that gone to adverse?
Alan, would you like to respond on this one, please? So whilst Alan unmutes himself, because I know we've had some challenges with computers.
So, I'm saying this is just observing, not responsibility. My apologies for that. The adverse is really around income, and there's two key drivers towards that. The first one is property rentals. We anticipated that some of the tenants, for example, have come back to us and tried to negotiate extended payment periods. So that's been a key, one of the factors. And the other one is really around, well, let me just turn over the page and we'll actually see it. My system of moving the cursor seems to have changed. You'll see property rental. If I don't know if you can see my mouse moving, that is significantly down. So at the time of doing this, our quarterly rents hadn't come in, but we really are worried. We haven't received any money for one of our commercial properties. We expect to we've been communicating with them now. We hope to get that money in. And the other, that's basically it. We've got a little bit, so it's the GWS admin charge, which we've been phasing that income stream out over a couple of years, and property rental.
Okay, thank you. Just to get an understanding of that heading.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in terms of when it's income, if it's adverse, the income that we have currently received is behind budget for the year and is projected for the year end to be behind as well. Obviously, if there's more income, then it's a positive thing. So hence, we tried to make that easier for that engagement, and that's clearly worked because you've picked up on that and queried it. Are there any other questions or queries, please, councillors? Yes, please, Dennis.
Right, just to say that I've been out of the meeting for the last 5 minutes or so. It dropped out and then it wouldn't let me return. I had to turn off, so I don't know what was said. But I just thought I'd better tell you that there's still connection problems. So I missed all the last agenda, but carry on, we'll go forward.
Oh, I am sorry, Dennis. I mean, if it reassures you at all, the contracts update was really just to know where the contracts are, as was the committee financial decisions, because they've obviously been made in committee. So we're currently looking at the financial report for month 5. So if you've got any questions or queries, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else, please?
Oh God, this writing's very slow.
Oh.
Can I, sorry, Madam Chair, can I just ask?
Yes, Councillor Hollis.
You've got 4424. Priorities?
Priory.
Priory. All right, poor budgeting. Poor budgeting, this is an annual grant that should have been budgeted. What is that about, please?
So what we get is we get an annual grant to operate the Priory on behalf of English Heritage.
Yeah.
And for some unknown reason, I didn't budget for that this year. So if you look at this column in the annual budget 2021, there's 0. but there should have actually been an amount of either 6,833 or 8,000. And the reason I'm just saying that, we're not too sure whether our grant is VAT inclusive or VAT exclusive. So we're just in the process of resolving that. But I have to put up my hand and say we didn't put it into the budget last year, and I apologise for not doing that.
No, that's fine. It was just that I was looking at when you see something like poor budget in it, it's sort of for me anyway. But no, I understand what you're saying. If you're not sure if it's VAT inclusive or not, then you've got to make sure before you can count it anyway, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I think we need to work on your terminology so that you're kinder to yourself, please.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Canham.
Yeah, memorials, what are they? So I'm not used to seeing all these on here. 4520.
What we do is we budget for the cemetery. We budget 3 sources of income: interments, exclusive right of burial, and memorials. And in totality, normally they come out. We're just trying to allocate them to specific items. Memorials is when someone adds another stone to a grave, is my understanding, or puts something there that wasn't there previously. So, for example, a headstone or
Okay.
I hope I'm making sense.
I'll get you drift now. Yeah, thank you.
So that is income derived from memorials. So that's specifically in the cemetery committee's veil of responsibility.
Oh, thank you very much, Alan.
So are we saying that actually interments are actually quite low this year?
We are. We've actually got capacity in the cemetery, which apparently we haven't had for years and years. So it's quite ironic that we're in the middle of a pandemic and our cemetery is not being utilised to how it has been in previous years. Hopefully this is not the calm before the storm. Hopefully that continues.
I am taking it as a positive that the residents of Thetford are hale, hearty and healthy.
That's the interpretation at the moment.
I second that.
Or being cremated.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need our cremation boxes, I think.
Well, we do also have the cremation interments as well. So, yeah.
We do.
But yeah, again, the Chinese curse, interesting times. Any other questions, please?
No, thank you.
In that case, may I have a proposer and seconder for recommending the financial report for month 5 to full council, please?
I propose Canham.
Thank you, Councillor Canham. And thank you, Councillor Hollis. I'll go round in the old-fashioned way because I'm not even going to try and go near Polly, to be perfectly honest. Councillor Brindle, agree?
In favour.
Councillor Canham?
Agreed.
Councillor Hollis?
Agreed.
Councillor Crawford?
Agreed.
Councillor Harvey?
Agreed.
Thank you all very much. That's unanimous. So we'll move on to 31120, which is the approval of payments made. To receive the listing of payments made since the last meeting. The recommendation is, so the payments are made, are summarised in attachments A to E that you've all had previously. Supporting documentation can be scanned and sent out to yourselves if you've got a burning question about a particular item on there. And the recommendation from our officer is that the making of these payments be approved. Are there any questions or queries regarding the attachments and the supporting paperwork, please?
I've scanned them all. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I've got no questions. I'll approve them.
Super. So has anybody got any further comments or questions?
I don't, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All fine with me.
And I'm happy.
Such a happy bunch. It's so easy to please. Thank you all very much. So, Councillor Cannon, were you proposing the recommendation to adopt those?
I will propose, yes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yes.
Chris Harvey.
Super, Councillor Harvey. Thank you for seconding. And I'll do the round robin again. So, Councillor Brindle.
In favour.
Councillor Cannon.
Agreed.
Councillor Hollis.
Agreed.
Councillor Crawford.
Agreed.
Councillor Harvey.
Agreed.
Super. They recommended unanimously. Thank you all very, very much. So we move on to 31220, which is the revised budget for the 2020-21 year. And this is to review the revised budget to take into account the impact of COVID-19 on the council's finance and recommend its adoption to council. You'll have had the paperwork and the summarising information. Whilst you get yourselves together in terms of putting the hands up in the chat, is there anything you would like to add at this stage, Alan, please?
I think this is really extraordinary. In all the time that I've been working with local government, I've never ever come across the need to do something like this. So it really is extraordinary. We've really had to relook at the budget because the variances were just getting out of hand. So the original budget really was no longer fit for purpose. We have gone through as the senior management team, and we've really done a detailed workshop. All these budgets have gone through the committees. I had to sit in tenterhooks this morning or this afternoon, hoping that the personnel department or personnel committee would approve it, which they have done. We've also had to identify some projects that we've included in the budget, and that's really to make us COVID safe. We really believe that we're going to have something at the entrance to the Carnegie as an example. And we've also used the opportunity to get some kind of better accounting processes. We've budgeted for a new allotment system, which we also hope will just add value and ensure that our data and everything else is being safeguarded and complied with. I think the scary part is that I don't think, and as a finance officer, you're not supposed to issue these words, but in my personal opinion, I'm not too sure that we're going to have the capacity to increase our precept next year. So I'm also very conscious of that. And what we did do at the end of last year is we had a little bit of extra money, and we set aside money in the COVID-19 reserve. And my recommendation is, as much as we've defined the number as 39,432, it actually would be around that. We do have £60,000 in the COVID reserve. The majority of that was set aside to counterbalance any loss of income, and we have had a loss of income this year. Just one, I can quote statistics until I'm blue in the face, and I don't want to do that. But just to give you an example, at the moment, our non-precept income is only 14% of total income. Last year, it was 34%. So that gives you an idea of where we are. Our expenditure levels have remained fairly consistent. We're just slightly up in last year's month-by-month expenditure. So we do need to balance our budget. We do need to kind of refocus it. And I'm confident that if this budget gets approved by council, we have a basis to measure and give more accurate feedback to this committee and to the council in the remaining 7 months of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very, very much for that summary. Any questions from the committee, please?
Just a quick question to Alan, if that's okay, Councillor Cannon.
Yes, please, Councillor Cannon.
I've got to try and word this right. At the present moment, you're trying to stop the precept coming up. Obviously, people are being financially hit. Would it be wise that the committees start to think about this then for next year? Because, the more the council want to do, the more we're going to be under financial restraint, really, aren't we? So I don't know whether we need to send a message out to committees to say, be careful what you stick on your priorities for next year, if that makes sense.
So, Councillor Cannon, as you'll probably recall, a meeting or two back, we recommended and full council approved the budget setting process by what means that we started looking at them, and actually, you know, most committees are now starting to look at their budgets for the 2021-22 financial year. This revised budget is to do with this current year. We cannot change the precept this year. That has already been set and was set back in November. And obviously the world was very, very different in November. We were lucky enough to have an amount of money left over and had the foresight to create, unfortunately, the COVID-19 reserve so that we could offset any, as Alan's rightly said, any significant impact to the council's income. So the recommendation, part of the recommendation is that we use just over 39,000 of that earmarked fund at this point in time to present a balanced budget. We cannot change the precept in this year because the council tax bills have gone out. Looking forward, it is this council's decision whether they choose to increase the precept, keep it the same, or even reduce it. And that is within the council's gift, and I would not like to even start thinking about that. But yes, I echo your concerns that councillors need to be mindful of the economic situation, both for ourselves and for our residents. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
just
yes.
thinking of April next year.
Well, our precept needs to be approved by mid to the end of January, so it goes through to Breckland Council, who collect it on our behalf. That is why traditionally the November full council meeting is the budget approval. So we have the timescales and we've recommended them through and they've been approved by full council. That now is the time that the committees need to start looking and thinking where they're at, have the first stab at it, see where it comes to, and then we've got time to review it if we need to without too much pressure on our council staff. Any other questions from the floor, please?
Can I make a comment, please, Madam Chairman?
Please, Councillor Brindle.
I think that's all very good sense, and I just hate to have to agree with Alan on this because finance officers are paid to be cautious. I think he's absolutely right to say that we have no guarantee whatever that anyone will have any desire to raise the precept. We have to assume that. I wonder whether we should be saying to, perhaps we already clarify that, I wonder whether we should make sure that all committees look at their priorities, in a sense, in priority order, so that they're clear. If the money turns out to be less than it is, either the income falls suddenly or we have further concerns with COVID beyond April, which I'm sure we may well, then it's possible to say, OK, we'll do 1, 2 and 3, but we won't do 4 and 5 or whatever it may be, so that as people are aware that we're living in you said it twice quite rightly, in interesting times. We are aware that committees need to be aware that things are still changing. It's hard to make a forecast. We have to make forecasts because we have to set a budget, but we really can't be sure what our income is going to be like in particular. So can committees be aware that, you know, that during the course of the period in question, we might need to make changes. They may need to say, can't do as much as we'd hoped to do.
Well, I would hope that the members of this committee who are members on the other committees will take that approach within the committee discussions. And I think it's a valid level of challenge that we need to discuss within all committees, not just the finance one. As you know, I've been particularly passionate about committees taking responsibility for their budgets. You know, they have their projects, they know best where to spend their money effectively and where the money needs to be spent for our town. So that's the key issue. And I know certainly within the venues, events and marketing recent committee meeting that there was a fantastic level of challenge and there was some really intense interrogation of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how can we improve, but what can this look like going forward? So I'm very, very mindful that we are sort of looking sort of short term and long term. And yeah, I can only ask for members of this committee to take that sentiment out to the other committees to remind them. I know the officers certainly who are supporting, the budget is on the agenda and they are being mindful of that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions, queries or comments, please, committee? If I may then, if there's nothing else, I would like to take the two recommendations on block. So that, because actually the revised budget does only work with the financing from that reserve. So the recommendation that the council continue to focus on increasing revenue and containing expenditure to the extent possible. However, the COVID-19 reserve was created in the previous financial year to offset the adverse financial implications of the pandemic. It is recommended that the revised budget be recommended to full council for approval, and that the revised budget deficit of 39,432 at this stage be financed from the COVID-19 reserve. Do I have a proposer for that recommendation, please?
I'll
Yes.
propose it.
We're all
Oh
trying
my
to do
goodness,
it.
that's all of you. I think I heard Councillor Brindle first. Is that correct?
I can't say I was first, but I was
No.
loud.
So that was Councillor Brindle. Are you happy to recommend that?
Yes, please.
Sorry. And was that Councillor Crawford that I also heard?
Yes, I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go round the table, the virtual table again. So Councillor Brindle,
In favour.
Councillor Canham,
Agreed.
Councillor Hollis,
Agreed.
Councillor Crawford,
In favour.
Councillor Harvey.
Agreed.
Thank you, and I add my agreement to that, so that's unanimous. So thank you very, very much, Alan, and your hard work on this, and the other officers, because I know it hasn't been easy. So we will move swiftly on to 313, addressing matters raised in the internal audit report. And Alan is going to update the committee on steps taken to address the matters raised in the internal audit report. Again, you have had this circulated previously. Is there anything you would like to add or elaborate on, please, Alan?
And Alan's gone deaf.
I think Alan's having fun with his mute and unmute again.
So I am. I do apologise. I've just been talking to my table.
Thank you, Alan.
After I was like I say, I'm very embarrassed. After meeting with Chair and the Town Clerk, we did agree some changes on item 4. We satisfied that they addressed the system change, and I just didn't. I completely forgot to change this particular piece of paper that was sent to the committee members. So again, I do apologise. We believe that is being addressed. It has been addressed. We've actually strengthened the controls over the salaries and payroll, so that should disappear. And item 5 is we can't implement it because we're sitting in the situation of electronic signatures, and that's the reason for the next item on the agenda, which we'll talk about there. But I'm quite confident that we'll have all these items resolved, and hopefully we'll cut the internal audit report from 5 to 0 in the next audit.
Thank you, Alan. I think that's poor chairing on my part, because if I'd have been more savvy, I'd have rearranged those 2 items, and then you could have gone, look what we've just achieved. But we could possibly be achieving it shortly. So I don't want to preempt this committee's decisions. So I'm really pleased to say that actually we are moving forward on these, and we'll be discussing them shortly in terms of virtual signings. Any questions or queries for Alan? I'll take you, Dennis, first, please.
No, I'm fine with it. It's nice to know that we are making the changes that we need to. Thank you.
Apologies, Dennis. You'd only just come up on my screen. I am so sorry. And I can
Yeah,
see
it was from the last one.
it's those internet gremlins again.
Mhm.
Any other questions or queries, please, for Alan?
No, thank you.
Okay, so if the committee is so minded, we'll note those and say thank you very much for your ongoing efforts, Alan. And we will move on to 31420, if there's no objections, which is the virtual signing of documents, which will mean that potentially we could move on. So to consider permitting the town clerk to use a virtual signature to authorise accounting documents, and if agreed, to recommend to council an insertion into the financial regulations. So we're hoping, in light of the world that we're finding ourselves in at the moment, that actually we could utilise electronic signatures in this way. Obviously, there is beneficial being minded of the PM's announcements today and potentially coming up at 8 o'clock from the House of Commons that was said about returning to home working where possible. This can facilitate that. So before we move on to the actual recommendation itself, as it is there on the screen, are there any questions or queries or comments from the committee, please?
Could I just ask a question on that? I can is that all right?
Yes, Cannon.
I can understand, signatures, because I've given mine to the mayor's officer before now, and she's done it electronically. If it's two councillors to have electronic signatures, how will they know that they've actually signed them and not just the officers have done it behind their back, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, so it's not effectively a picture of your signature that we kind of cut and paste into something. It's effectively a means of a checkbox proceeding with it. Alan, would you like to come in at that point? Because I know you've been working on the actual system itself.
Thank you, Chair. What we're looking at is, at the moment, we're just ending up in a situation where I'm, for example, if I need the town clerk to authorise something, I send her an email, she reviews the information that I give to her, and she sends me back an email to say, yes, you can proceed. And what the challenges we have for that is that if we have about 30, 40 invoices a month, the town clerk has to sign those. And at the moment, it's quite difficult to keep having an email as evidence. So going paperless, which is one of our other objectives, we're actually creating more paper by I have to print out an email, attach it to an invoice to say, there you are, the town clerk has authorised this. So what we're looking at is the system, and it is for the town clerk and the other officials who are responsible for signing documentation. It's for them, if we email them documentation, they have a signature that they can put onto that. I don't have access to it. I can't cut and paste it and post it onto a document. It'll come straight from the town clerk. I won't have access to it, and it'll be in a PDF type format where it can't be edited. And in that way, we could actually create a database where I can ask the town clerk, please go in, sign these documents electronically if you're happy with them. And once we have that, we can then put that into our paperless system, which we're doing on Sage at the moment. We're actually scanning all the documents once they're approved, and we have them as evidence. So it's not only because of COVID, I think it's also part of our move to paperless. I mean, we must go through 15 to 20 reams of paper just to print out supplier invoices. If we can get rid of that, that'll be a significant saving to the council in terms of paper usage, storage, and all those other issues. So it is, but it's got to be safe. And as I'm sure you can imagine, the town clerk's not going to be very happy if I can cut and paste her signature on documents, because I could cause havoc. So it will be safe, it will be secure, but it will also save us having to have all this paper trails, which we have at the moment.
Does that allay your concerns, Councillor Canham?
Yeah. So what you would do then, when you need two signatures from a councillor, you would send that off to two councillors, that they would do their electronic signature. And
this is not for any of the councillors.
No, this is for the officials.
Oh, so it's only for the officials.
Yeah, so this is the process whereby the invoice comes in, is approved, allocated to the correct nominal code so that we can analyse it, so we know where the money's going to, and then in terms of signing it off. And obviously that also supports the payroll side of things, which significantly was an issue raised in the internal audit report previously. Does that help? Because in terms of internet banking and that kind of thing, we all have our own logins, and councillors have to sign in and approve those with the banking system. If it's a cheque, we still need the physical signature, because we can't do it any other way.
Okay.
That help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Super. Councillor Crawford.
Well, some of my questions have just been answered. Thank you very much. Because I don't know anything about this virtual signing things or anything. I've never done it before, but you've clarified it to a point. But as long as I don't have to do anything, I'm not too worried about it. As long as it's up to the officers and everything who do it. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but if I'm going to have to do it, then I'm going to want more information, because I'm lost to the world, and I'll admit it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. I don't think you're lost to the world at all. Any more questions, queries or comments, please? Councillor Hollis, please.
Thank you. So basically, this will make it easier for everybody that needs it being easy for finances. It can just be done on an email, get back, so everything can be quicker and easier and not wasting the paper. Am I right on that?
Correct.
Yeah, beautifully summed up.
Right. Oh, well, I totally agree with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis. Any other questions, queries or comments, please, committee? In the absence of that, can I take the two parts of the recommendation en masse? That it is recommended to the Finance Committee improve the insertion of clause 5.2 as written above into the financial regulations, which states the RFO and the other officials referred to in clause 5.1 may use electronic signatures as evidence of having undertaken the tasks and responsibilities in that clause. Electronic signatures may also be used by the RFO as evidence that other supporting documentation, such as payroll information, is authorised. And that 2, recommend that council approve this amendment to the financial regulations. Do I have a proposer, please?
I'll propose, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis, for proposing. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Mike Brindle.
Thank you, Councillor Brindle, and I will do the round the virtual table voting again. I'm going to do it in reverse order just to mix it up a little bit today. So, Councillor Harvey.
Agreed.
Councillor Crawford.
Agreed.
Councillor Hollis.
Agree.
Councillor Canham.
Agree.
Councillor Brindle.
Agreed.
Super, so that's unanimous because I agree to it also. So thank you very much for your work on that, Alan. Very much appreciated. So that's another bit ticked off the internal audit report. Well done. So we go to 31520, which is the finance officers reforms. To note the progress on the finance officers reforms, I'll hand over to you, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. This time I am unmuted, I've checked. I think the committee members might be a little bit concerned that they see a lot of the same information coming in month in and month out at these particular meetings. But we are making significant progress. The ordering, we're slowly getting that off the ground. We've got a reliable system. We are following up the orders. Because we're doing that, we're able to do proper budget profiling. We're able to do commitment accounting, which are some of the issues further down in this particular in the table that's in front of you now. We're making significant progress in terms of contract management and property rental management. I think the decision of the committee has been to use an external provider to continue to manage some of our properties. Our contract management, we're putting together, my assistant at the moment, we've had a meeting with the works team yesterday. We're putting together a system that we can actually ensure that our projects documentation is put together. Key dates are put in place, and that's one of the changes and one of the issues that we have is that when a contract comes up to renewal, there hasn't been a reminder sent out to someone to say, look, in 3 months' time, your contract needs to be renewed. We need to start doing some of those negotiations. So we are making significant progress there, and I have promised the chair that one meeting with most of these items will disappear in one foul swoop. The big progress that we have made, you'll see that in terms of the revised budget, we've profiled the budget. So for every single month, there is an amount, and again, that makes it so much easier to do reporting on the finances side, because we now know we can talk a little bit more specifically than just keep making general comments. And because we're doing that, we're at the situation, which I'm sure some of the committee members will be pleased to hear, is that when I started a year ago, every day I used to open up my inbox and I'd have an email from a supplier kind of saying that our account was put on hold and threatening action against us. And we're at the situation now where we're actually chasing our suppliers because we actually have quite good feeling of what's happening in our orders. We're following up our orders, and we're ensuring that the information is processed in the correct period. The other 2 areas that I've highlighted is on the allotment software. We're implementing that, and I think that's going to make a significant difference to our management of allotment information. And then the last thing that we've just added on is I'm very conscious that our financial regulations have a number of requirements. So, for example, the Finance Committee is supposed to review the bank statements on a regular basis. We're supposed to review direct debits. There's other information that's required. And so what I thought would be very critical is in the next month or so is to actually get a timetable out so that we can track all these responsibilities. So at the end of each year, we can look back and say, well, in terms of our financial regulations, we were supposed to have done that. This is when we've done it, and that's when we'll do it again. But yes, slow progress, but solid progress, if I can summarize it in that way.
Thank you, Alan. And obviously this, in terms of the finance officer reforms, you won't see any green ones on there once they've been completed and reported to the committee, because they're no longer a form, they're embedded. So obviously it always looks like there's something to do. And unfortunately, Alan, there is. Any questions or queries or comments, please, for Alan?
No, I am glad that we've only got one red. That means we're moving in the right direction. I think that red one was added on at the last minute, was it? Can't remember seeing that one before.
It is a newly identified, so yes, that's why it's red, because we found it, and that's good in terms of internal controls and that side of things, that we're identifying what we need to do better, and that will ultimately be a good tool when we come to the internal audit next year round as well. So, and that will help support that work that the internal auditor does for us.
Yep.
Any other questions, please?
No, thank you.
So, duly noted, Alan, and thank you again for all your hard work. It's an ongoing process. It's a little bit like the Forth Road Bridge. We paint and then we get to the end of it and we start it all again.
Thank you.
Great.
Super. So on to 31620, correspondence to be noted and considered. Alan, have we had any, please?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So 31720, committee officers update, to update any information since the agenda was released. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. I think was it last week, there was, coming out the VEN meeting, there was an issue around better understanding costs. And as finance officer, I have written a response to some of those particular issues. The Chair of Finance also raised an email, which was very useful. I think what we're trying to do is making sure that if we provide costs, to start understanding what are some of our cost drivers and some of the other functions, that we actually do it in a very clear understanding that we've got to be very careful that we just don't end up in this costing pot. When I first came to the council, we'd actually moved away from all these detailed costs where we'd have a chart of accounts that had in excess of 400 items, and we've rationalized that down. And what we're trying to do is kind of measure how do we actually provide critical information to committees without going back to where we had all those particular costs. So I'm going to organise some discussions within the senior management team, and we're going to come up with a way to start providing information, but keep it off budget rather than putting it into the budget. If we start doing things like opportunity cost accounting, if I do something for someone, I charge 5 minutes on my timesheet, because then all we do is we just spend our time doing accounting and we actually stop operating as a council. So we are giving that some attention, but I just thought it'd be very useful for this committee to be aware that those discussions are happening in other committees, and at some stage, as an organisational wide, we may have to address it. The second issue that's come up is the Carnegie roof is actually a big project. I have seen some reports, and I nearly fell off my chair. I'm not too sure how valid they are, but one of the things that we may want to do is look at the Public Works Loan Board to actually do some of the financing. And it would depend on the extent to which we do it, because if we just go and just patch up 1 or 2 holes in the roof, that's not considered to be capital. That wouldn't qualify for any form of financing from this particular source. Whereas if we actually enhanced the roof and made it last longer and basically enhanced the building, then we're in the situation where we might be able to do that. So I have identified this as a means to investigate how we can afford to fix the roof rather than just going to the residents and saying to them we have to have a special levy, or we stop operating all our other projects to be able to do that. So it's just a possible use of the Public Works Loan Board, and I will come back to this committee to get more guidance once I have more information. And that's it, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very, very much, Alan. Any questions, queries or comments on the committee officers update, please?
I have one, please.
Yes, Councillor Hollis.
Sorry. This Zen meeting request on allocation of staff costs. I understand what you're saying, Alan, but I don't understand why really it's being requested, because everybody knows what their works description is, what their pay band is, and that. If I don't really understand what they're requesting it for.
My understanding is so that they can get a greater understanding of, because obviously staffing costs sits within the personnel budget, rightly so. So it's the impact on the specific areas of personnel expenditure within a committee. Now, I believe Alan is going to look, and as he stated, he's dealing with the whole of the senior management team. So this is something that's going to go across the board. It's not going to be exclusive to them. So in terms of works team time for allotments, for example, that there will be a greater understanding of, potentially, is there a subsidisation of what it costs to run the allotments being provided by this council? Because obviously there's a lot of manpower that goes into that. So it's just for a greater understanding rather than a time and motion study for navel gazing, which my personal view is I hate. But then obviously that's my personal view. But them have requested a greater understanding of where the staffing costs come from. So strategically, finance are supporting that request, but that's going to be rolled out across all the other committees, so they have that information available to them should they wish it. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, queries or comments, please, for Alan on the update?
I've got one. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Councillor Canham.
This public loan board, what are they lower interest rates than the bank then?
Yes, they are considerably, and they're only available to local authorities. There are a number of things that we have to go through before we can actually apply for it. And actually, the key issue is following. I mean, this is my fault. I will be completely honest. I took the strategic view, having been a member of the ALP committee and seen the report on one of the reports on the roof. You know, should the committee decide to go down enhancement and further works to that rather than just patch and repair, I'm unsure where we would find the money for it. So being aware of the Public Works Loan Board, I asked Alan to investigate so that depending what the ALP committee decide that they want to do, you know, we can strategically support that. And that is obviously the role of finance, us as a committee, is that strategic level of support for all committees. So that's seeing the horizon coming up and seeing that report has prompted this investigation. It's not a done deal. We have to apply for permission to actually have a loan on this, but this is the first stage of investigating it so that we can provide all of the information to the committee and council should they wish to explore it. Does that help?
I think it's very helpful indeed, Madam Chairman, because without it, the VEM committee, I'm not a member, might be saying, well, we can't really afford to carry out the full repairs, the full works on the Carnegie roof. Whereas if we had that loan, it might be a very sensible long-term commitment. Well, I think we did very well to involve the PWLB or to look at the possibility of involving them.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Crawford, please.
Yeah, just on that, I mean, the PWLP is probably one of the cheapest ways of borrowing money for a council and everything, so it's a very good idea. But when we're looking into doing the roof and everything, I mean, would there be a possibility of looking into some ecology features? You know, we're all for, you know, saving electricity and stuff. So, you know, it's going to be a very expensive repair. But if we could get the money to improve on things, and maybe even, I don't know if it's going to be strong enough, the roof, to put some solar panels and everything on it, we may, you know, benefit even more from it. Thank you.
Dennis, I am delighted that you've picked up on our environmental strategy and acknowledged there's a potential opportunity here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You're not the only person that has thought that way. There is that exploration, but obviously that is down, I believe it's down to the ALP committee in the initial stages because it's the outside of the property, isn't it? So it sits there. We are here to support. So I hope you don't all mind that I sort of prompted that, but I think it's a strategic, even if we look at it and decide no, at least it's been considered. Any other questions or queries for Alan on that matter, please?
Nope.
Super. In that case, thank you very much, Alan, for your updates. And I'm sorry that I'm getting you to do so much research at the moment.
Thanks for all the errors are back.
So we'll move on to our final agenda item, which is 31820, community engagement. Is there anything that we need to chat with the public about that we've discussed today, please, committee?
No.
No, I don't really think there is anything at this stage. We're being prudent. So thank you all very much for your time. If there's no further questions or queries or comments, thank you all very much, ladies and gentlemen.